games you deserve.
Welcome to Games You Deserve, brought to you by Special Reserve Games. This week, we welcome SRG art director Mike Sanders to the podcast, plus Erik reads mean tweets and Chapter 7 of Fireflower.
We just had an announcement yesterday as we're recording this, and it's a wonderful opportunity, as far as I'm concerned, to put out a second pressing, not a reprint, because we're going to do some cool, different stuff with this, but a second pressing of Grease, and it's going to be amazing. And we've gotten some really fantastic, positive reception on this game. There are so many people saying thank you for giving us an opportunity to do this. But there is a group of people that they just, I don't know, man, they didn't really agree with the decision. And I thought it would be a lot of fun to take a few of my favorite tweets that we received and just put them out there and see what your reaction is, Smitty and Dan, and just kind of read them. And, if you want to react, have at it. Otherwise, maybe we could let the tweet stand for itself if you don't want to.
Oh my! So this is going to be scary.
So it might be. It might
Hide
be.
Your children.
And these are sort of in an order for me. But honestly, some of them, I think you're going to like this. First one is, I'm still waiting to hear about another run of Hotline Miami collection.
Give us some time here, buddy. Come on.
I've got the answer for that. Ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
Now, that doesn't mean we're not gonna have a second chance sale. We might have some stock for that.
Well, if anybody ever paid attention to, and they do, when all these people are receiving their copies of Hotline Miami now, it says your number out of 8,000. But we didn't put 8,000 up for sale. If you look back at the sale, we only put 7,500 up for sale. So that meant there are 500. Now, we've got VIPs like Erik and his entire extended family that he has to give free games to, and that's like 200 of them right there. But
we're like rabbits.
Dan, sorry, that's why you get no games, is because they're all down in Erik's, parents' basement or whatever they do. That's the eBay guy right there. No, I'm sorry. So, but there are a few, we use to keep around for damages or returns, or if we had any kind of catastrophe with shipping or something. And so we do hold those back for the right reasons. They're not just to give away to our friends and family. And if we do give them away to our friends and family, they get the unnumbered ones. Okay. So just hold on, everybody.
Another one of these said, I really don't want to tweet this, but man, this sucks for true collectors and people who spend thousands of dollars for, quote, limited physicals.
Well, I wonder, the collector, I have found there's a lot of different levels of collectors in the physical video game world. You've got people who really just love the games and want to own the physical version of the game, and they rip it out of the package and they slam it in the console and they play it. And then there's people who will buy a digital version of the game and get a copy of the physical game just to support the developers. And then there's a whole group of folks that just like to buy 2 or 3 copies of the game so they can open one and not open the other 2. And then you've got, I guess, folks that really hope they appreciate and they have a value, which I think is beautiful, because I truly never intended for any of these things to have a secondary market value necessarily. I wanted them to have a value for the person that really loved that game, that bought that game and had a connection to the game. I wanted to do the game justice, because we had such an outcry of people who found out about that game after we had sold our physical version. After maybe it had won some awards, that game just kind of kept building with more and more people finding out about it. And so I thought, of all the games we've done, Grease had such an emotional connection to me personally, and then I think a lot of other people. It felt right that we could share it in such a way. So unnumbered jackets for a second pressing, brand new artwork for a second pressing, not doing a reserve box. We're looking into doing a slip cover though, to kind of, still show some of the beautiful art in special ways with different processes, but we're doing a few things, and we'll call it a single. So instead of it being called a Switch Reserve, which implies that it comes with a nice box, maybe a piece of art or an art book or something in addition to the game, this is a Switch single, where it's the great game, preserved in a wonderful, beautiful way, probably has the instruction booklet inside of it, and it's, a lower price too. I mean, it's a $29.99 MSRP for these. So once again, I think we've preserved the value of the original pressings, with some of the approach to the second pressing, but it's the only game that we're going to do this for. I mean, there is no reprint in our vocabulary. Second pressings, this is the only one we're probably ever going to do. I mean, at least for the games we've already done.
The next one is money grab was the comment.
Was it a hashtag money grab?
No. Not even they couldn't even afford a hashtag on it. Can you believe that? Money grab. And, I almost wanted to respond on this one because
I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, this one to me this is not about money in this case for us. Honestly, Nomada created an amazing game with beautiful artwork from Conrad Rosé. And there were so many individuals that I felt did not get a chance to have some of that in hand, right? And so sure, a lot of people got a chance to play it. They downloaded the eShop version of this, but to have that physical asset in your hand is a different thing. And yeah, unfortunately,
well, it is a cash grab. You know who it's a cash grab for? The developer. I would love to pay that developer more and more money. And just to really tell that guy, in a situation where this is being published, Devolver is known for giving very, very fair deals to developers. And it's an independent situation. Devolver, the publisher of Grease, is independently owned. It's not a publicly traded company. Nomada Studios out of Barcelona, Spain, who developed it, independently owned. Not a big corporate entity. So, we are very independent. I'm working from my house. But so there's only one or two chances that some of these great development houses have to actually get paid for their work. But so I will say that the lion's share, and I'm talking way more than half of the proceeds, the profits of our physical reserves and the digital downloads go to the developer, to the people who created it. So yeah, I really wish we had sold more Grease the first time because I thought the developers deserved it. So if it's a crash grab, yeah, it's me getting some more cash for the artists who absolutely deserve it for their beautiful art.
This next one said, unpopular opinion because I am the only person in the world who values rarity and specialty. I don't get it. What is the difference between a numbered and non-numbered edition? Just be honest from the start when something isn't limited. Then there's also no need to rush.
Right. The difference is numbers. There's either no numbers or there are numbers. That would be, I'm going to say we'll start right there. Well, we originally started sequentially numbering everything with PlayStation 4. Sony, at the time, didn't even understand what I was doing because we were the only publisher that sequentially numbered every single one of our units. The reason I started sequentially numbering anything was we were new and we were talking to people about doing stuff in limited numbers and limited quantities. So I said, if we number everything that we do, I can prove what I'm saying. So if I say I'm only going to make 8,000, I can prove it because we're printing those numbers on the jacket covers. And if you look at your switches, the switch copies, you'll see you have a certain number out of 8,000, a certain number out of 6,000, a certain number out of 3,000. And they're always by the thousands because Nintendo requires you to order by the thousands. So they round. So that is the original reason why I started sequentially numbering everything. It's so I could prove what I was saying about how limited these really were. I never said they're more valuable because they're numbered.
Aha! Not even Xena is a match for the limited edition double-edged lightsaber from Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
You removed it from its original packaging.
No! It's no longer a collectible!
This one, this is one of maybe the more mean ones here. So I'm gonna lay this on you. It says, well, there goes my respect. Never, ever gonna buy a special reserve game again. You can explain all you want, Smitty. He didn't say Smitty, I said Smitty. This is a breach of trust, as people expect with the original to have bought something exclusive, which will now become common buy. I don't know about you, but if we printed a limited amount in the first place, it's still limited, right? Like suddenly it's not common all of a sudden.
Well, I mean, there's also a thing going on out there related to one of our things that we did called for Greece, that we did this really high-end art book, and it's a beautiful. It's called the Brillianta linen cover. Go look it up. It's toothy linen. And then we use this uncoated vellum paper with a 3D Instacure offset printing process. You know, it's a beautiful art book. It's very big. It weighs a couple pounds.
More than a couple.
I mean, it is a fantastic art book. Well, they're also out of Spain, and I believe it was called I forgot the name of the company, but it's a friend of Nomada that they had do the same art from that art book, a different cover and everything like that, but it was meant to be kind of for the masses, for the people, because that was Conrad Rosé's art, you know, the design of the game, and the art book is beautiful. And so you can find that at a local retailer in Spain. There's places you can order it online. And I even know there was some confusion, even like, well, did this other book, you know, I got this other book that's, you know, why is your book so expensive? Like, well, I mean, one book's made of platinum, the other one's made out of aluminum, you know, it's like there's going to be a difference and so that's kind of the way I look at some of our reserves and what we put into it, the boxes, how Mike and all of us had talked about that every single print has a unique variation. Every single print is its own, you know, print colors, its ink layers, its ink densities and things. And so that's the way I look about the first pressing. You have assets that were physically created, never be created again. You own them. You have them. I don't. You win.
I saved the best for last, and this one's a little bit shorter than the others, but I had to share it with you. You really are the worst site for limited games, which are not really limited in the end.
Awesome.
Okay, you guys, this is the first time you've done this, right? This is the first time you've done this.
First time we've.
It's the first time we've ever done a second pressing. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So like they're acting like you do this all the time. You know, that's what I get from that.
It's that good old phrase, you can't please all the people all the time.
Well, Smitty, you're the worst, apparently, according to this guy. We're the worst.
I'm going to change my name.
That's right.
I'm going to change the name of our company to Nearly Limited Special Reserve Games .org.
Doesn't have the same ring to it.
No, it doesn't. I wanted to circle back around to the very beginning of this, though, and say that I really did have to hunt through, you know, tons and tons of positive tweets on this. This is truly like a vast majority of the negative sentiment, whereas, you know, 10-1, maybe even more than that per post. God, we had so many responses. I was like, where are the negative tweets? And there was, some of these, but man, the positive reaction from people blew me away.
Yeah.
Blew me away.
I do love legitimate concern and truthfulness. I respect that a lot. But
what occurred to me, I'm going to put this in terms of what I used to collect, was just comic books. That was my big collection that I had back in the day. And what's the most valuable comic book in the world?
Action Comics with
Number one.
The premiere of Superman.
Yes, of course. 1938, it was released, and I think I just looked it up here. A copy recently went for $3 million on eBay, in case you're interested. Or maybe not on eBay, but anyway, they reprinted that comic book 4 or 5 times, different versions, right? Different versions. I bought one because I wanted to read the story of it. I couldn't afford to buy an original copy, of course, but every time they reprinted that comic book, does not take away from the value of the original pressing. That's the original.
To me, it almost increases the value of the original.
But it's the same kind of thing, because I bought it because I wanted to read the story, and it's the same as these people who want to buy the game because they want to own the game. It's the same thing, So that's how I would explain it to anybody who seems concerned that this is going to devalue their original purchases. I don't think that's going to happen at all.
Go look up how much even a second printing of that Action Comics is worth. I mean, even the second printing is worth a bunch of money. So and really, that's not where you and I and Smitty all think about the value in this. Sure, things cost money. Great, okay, but the value is in the art.
And I guarantee you, anybody who spent $3 million on that comic book is not buying it because they want to make a ton of money on it. They're buying it because they want to own a piece of comic book's history, right?
But I hope that, if you bought a comic book for $3 million, you'd want to leave it in the protective cover. But then it's like you just bought a $3 million comic that you're never going to read. And there's something so wrong with that. Everybody, I'd like to introduce you to Michael Sanders from Winnipeg, Canada. He is my partner in crime on a lot of the Special Reserve Games art that you see, everything from jacket art layout to any part of the reserves, even the Instagram ads and some of the website stuff. Anyway, just like everybody, to get to know Mike Sanders a little bit more, he's, what I lovingly call my art director here at Special Reserve Games. We brainstorm a lot of projects together, but Mike has a really great team up in Winnipeg that does all kinds of different production. And so all kinds of production from print layout design that we do. But I think when I originally met you, you were involved with movies, documentaries. And so you even have like animation groups and whatnot under your wing. So Mike was just one of those incredible people that you find that you can do almost every project you want under, or at least every project that I want, that I've been able to find a way to do with you and your team. So I just thought it'd be cool for everybody to do maybe a deeper dive and find out a little bit more about what you got going on up in Winnipeg. So when I first met you with Andy Grace, it was for a documentary called Men with Beards, right?
Yeah, that's how I met Andy, yeah.
Right? I mean, tell us, what is Men with Beards and how can people find out about it? And just tell us about that documentary and
Men
that
with
part
Beards
of your life.
Is a 80-minute documentary about men with beards. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Are you in it?
Talk about it so much, I'm sort of half checked out. You can get it on Amazon Prime, I feel like the last podcast I recorded with Dan, we also talked about men with beards.
Yeah, but that was a while ago.
Was that
That's true.
4 years ago?
Yeah, and we should also mention that Mike is also my connection to you guys as well, as he was the one I was working on a different podcast, and he approached me about doing this with you guys as well. So we have a bit of a Winnipeg connection there.
Yeah,
so,
Winnipeg.
But Men with Beards, I mean, it was a really big deal at the time when it came out. It was a great movie, all kinds of acclaim and people responding to it. What we talked about, Mike, when you were on the other podcast we did, is how many people kind of misinterpret what it's about, even though it's very clearly states what it's about.
Yeah.
But they look at it and they think it's like a Duck Dynasty documentary or something like that.
Yeah. I think too, there's just a certain approach to documentaries sometimes where people sort of make the assumption that you're making the encyclopedia version of that subject. Do you know?
Yeah. It's not about all men with beards. It's about a certain collection of men with beards that you interviewed
It's a
and followed
story
along.
about men with beards. It's not a documentary about every little aspect of beards that that is a boring film in my opinion to watch. So,
But then sometimes I'm talking to you and you say, "Oh, hey, I'm going to be out tomorrow. We're going out to somewhere and we're shooting a bunch of moose."
yeah.
And I said, why are you shooting moose? And you're like, we shoot a lot of moose, and not with guns, but with cameras.
I was wondering if you were keeping the population down or something for everybody up there.
I've got this little production company up here, and I have these 3 small teams that have all sort of sprouted out of a different thread of freelance work that I used to do myself. So I started as a graphic designer and photographer, and I worked as a professional photographer and graphic designer for probably about 10 years, and then really didn't do much of that stuff anymore once I got more involved with the filmmaking side of things. And now I've got a small team of graphic designers. I've got we have a couple developers. We have a UI UX specialist. We have a couple 3D modelers. I've got a full-time assistant editor, and then I have a business partner. So like all these, there's 10 of us, and then we probably lean on another half dozen freelancers, contractors throughout the year on different projects. But all the work spans everything from like doing an Instagram graphic for Special Reserve Games all the way through to laser scanning grain elevators. We toured a tool and die manufacturing plant last week about some work for them. We've done apps, and we've published a small game, and we've done some VR development, and I've made films about beards, and I've shot commercials, and I'm shooting a doc about moose right now, and I've done, like the range of stuff we do is so wide. But
so it's okay. I'm just going to cut you off right there and just say I accept your award as the most exciting client. Hello. I mean, are we not the most?
Mike, something that might be interesting to the audience is the one you did about the pinball champion. Tell us about that one.
We're doing a 4 parts. It's a 4-part. Well, it's going to be 6 parts now. We just got 2 more picked up. We're doing a 6-part web series on pinball. So we have a pinball enthusiast he's top 50 ranked in Canada, and he loves pinball. His name's Trevor Watman. And my assistant editor, Mark, met Trevor outside of a 7-Eleven about 4 years ago. They bought the last Slurpees before the 7-Eleven closed at that location and bonded over that. And then a few years later, Mark sees him at an arcade here playing pinball and was just destroying this pinball game. And Mark had said he'd never seen anyone he had never seen pinball played like that. And so he walked up to Trevor and he's like, "Hey man, do you remember me? Like we met outside the 7-Eleven, and how did you learn how to play pinball like that?" And then Trevor showed Mark how to play pinball. And the next thing you knew, Mark became obsessed with pinball, and we put this show idea together where Trevor would go visit a pinball machine with a friend of his at a different location in Winnipeg, and they play a game and talk about how much they love pinball. So we've shot 4 episodes. We've shot 5 episodes, and it's going to be out this end of this summer, probably around August, September. It'll be online for everyone. It'll screen regionally here in Manitoba, in Winnipeg, and then it'll be up online. And then we're going to try to maybe do a second season.
I was talking to Mark about that, and obviously he's extremely enthused about all of this. He's deep in.
Yeah, he's deep, and that's why he directed it, because he's deep. He knows.
Yeah.
He was into it more than I've seen anyone into.
So we should introduce everybody to Mark a little bit. Mark is one of our incredible support staff. Just, when you guys have a problem and you send that email off, Mark is one of the folks that's answering that, and he's a support god.
He was our full-time support guy that helped us through a lot of turbulent stuff around the shipping of Messenger and Minute when we had some real catastrophes, and he kind of helped set a course. And I remember having the conversation with Mike specifically, Mike saying, hey, Mark's got this documentary that we want him to do, he wants to do, but he actually put that on hold to handle some of our customer service calls. It kind of delayed the start of this documentary a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah,
I think Mark was just concerned that he wasn't going to have any time. He was pretty concerned for a little while there. Yeah.
When I was talking to him about this, one of the things that I found super interesting that I was hoping you could tell us a little bit more, tell the listeners a little bit more about, was you guys had done some camera setups around the pinball tables with just an insane setup.
Yeah, so we did some early, I lost count of how many camera tests we did because I wanted to cover it with GoPros, which I regret entirely. Because I just don't like. They might be a perfectly fine camera I just have a real love-hate relationship with those things, and so we had a 7 GoPro camera set up on a pinball machine, and then we were also shooting with 3 additional cameras, and we probably did, I want to say 4 or 5 camera setups with those GoPros, to figure out what we wanted to do there. And then in the end, I think we ended up getting rid of 3 of them. And so we basically put a camera on the flippers, we put a camera on either side of the play field at the back, we put a camera over top capturing the whole play field, and then we just shoot a lot of B-roll and pickups of Trevor playing. The only reason that it works is because Trevor is such a good, accurate player that if I said to him, I need a shot of the ball hitting that bumper, he'd hit that bumper for me every time. I need a shot of you hitting that there's these little ghost guys that sit, the Scoleri brothers in Ghostbusters sit up, and if you hit them,
Ghostbusters 2
yeah, but on the Ghostbusters pinball machine, which is just Ghostbusters. I'm with you, Dan, it is Ghostbusters 2, I agree. But
Scoleri brothers, friends of yours, I tried them for murder, gave them the chair. You gotta do something. Why don't you just tell them you don't believe in ghosts?
So we would be doing these pickups where I'd be like, okay, well, Trevor, can you get it? Okay, and he nails it. And I'm like, okay, I move the camera. Can you hit it again? And he hits it again. And so anything that he did throughout a regular game, if we saw it happening on one of the GoPros, or we saw it happening during the game and it was a cool shot and we wanted a detail of it, we just pick it up after the fact, which made the actual camera setup a lot simpler than it originally we thought it was going to need to be. But I think it's just it was an opportunity to try to capture someone playing pinball in a way that hadn't we're trying to put people in the machine. It's a physical game, right? And so I just did not want to just have these sort of shooting from a distance. If you see anything else that most people have shot on pinball, it's the same shots all the time. It's a medium shot of someone playing, then it cuts to a wide shot of them standing at the machine. There's maybe a close-up of the ball moving up and down the playfield. But we went as far as to try to follow the ball as best we could. We recorded a lot of off-speed stuff, so there's a lot of overcrank, like slow-mo, and try to capture my kind of minutia of the game as Trevor sees it, But really just trying to capture the sense of it being a physical ball moving in space and time, and not just a flat screen where pixels move on it,
Well, I love pinball machines. I mean, growing up, they were just one of the coolest things because there was a learning curve, of course, like you said, probably to get to his area, but they were also real easy just to plug a quarter in and just, slap those, paddles, just bang, bang, bang. And just, a small kid could have a level of enjoyment just abusing a pinball machine, not necessarily playing it, versus someone who's really trying to finesse that baby. And then of course I've always wanted to know what makes that knock. What makes that knock in the middle? Is it a little chipmunk with a hammer? I mean, what's in there that makes that knock when you get that extra ball, What is that?
It's a solenoid.
It's a solenoid that just expands really quick and knocks into it's literally like on a piece of wood on the end of it, right? Like it's just literally a wood on wood knock. Trevor loves that sound.
Could be, Kiss pinball with laser beams coming out of it and fire, but it's still got that same knock, It's amazing. I love that sound.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Pinball players love that. Yeah. But that's the thing, like it's a physical, it's a physical game you're playing. It's not and so that's what I was, especially shooting films. Film is a three-dimensional medium. It's a physical medium. It's not, you don't need to shoot it you don't really need fancy cameras. It's already a three-dimensional medium just in how a film comes together. So I just love physical stuff. I love the physical pinball. I started designing, I did CD packaging, like every other graphic designer did. But
what was your very first graphic design job that you got paid for? That you actually got paid for?
Was a business card, and I only got paid half, and I got stiffed for the other half.
Right, a business card. And then, was there a logo involved?
Yeah, and that's why I got stiffed. He didn't like the logo. So he paid me for the layout, and I got $125. And I got stiffed for the other $125 because he didn't think the logo, the additional designs weren't really anything beyond the initial business card design.
Well, so even some of the design work that you and I do together, there's a difference between laying something out for physical print and then laying stuff out that'll only be seen on the internet, digitally.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's an art to both, and both of them are equally as important, and so it's rare that you find even someone in an agency setting where there's one person that is a graphic designer that can do both. And, I just wonder if, a lot of people listen to the podcast or that buy our games or interact with us on Discord or whatever that are creatives themselves. Mm-hmm. And so, maybe talk about some of the tools that you use in some of our design. I mean, they're going to be, Photoshop and, Illustrator stuff. But I mean, what are some of the tools that you use? And then how do you use those to bridge physical and digital so we have continuity, in our designs, and you're not overworking your staff to produce two of everything, two versions.
And how many crayons are in that box? I
think there's 144 in the one I have.
I never had the 144 crayon box. I don't know.
I got it once when I had strep throat for the fourth time in 1 year. My mother thought I was going to die.
I don't think, we use the same tools as everyone else. We use Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. We use Creative Suite. I don't think there's anything really special about the tools we're using necessarily.
It's the people.
Well,
the people are the special link, right?
It is the people. I've got really good people. That's bottom line. Everyone's different. Everyone has their own sensibility. People are good at different things.
Well, but laying stuff out for print, to say a younger up and coming, great creative minds in every generation, but the education that they're getting, and used to be that there was the tools that we were given to use to be creative with, if you will, they were full of restrictions. You spent more time learning the tool or the program than you were able to express your art.
Yeah, I don't think that really happens anymore.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Not anymore.
The technical education is absolute trash right now.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I don't think that most. I know for a fact. I'm not gonna. But I've had people come into this company on day one and not know facts about graphic design and design in general that should have been taught to them on day one, if not week one, and they should have known it like a second language by the end of their first quarter. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I think the technical aspect is really lacking. I think for a few reasons. I think it's overlooked a lot of times. I think that a lot of software now, I think people have this assumption that the software is doing a lot for you, and I think that's a bad assumption to make.
Amen.
I think that it's also daunting to learn about color space. I think that it's a bit of a mystery for a lot of people, when in fact it really just takes a little bit of reading and rereading, and I think for the most part people are scared to do things wrong and are scared to fail. And I think that's why you see a little bit of lack of technical knowledge, especially in younger designers. They don't have enough real world experience, and you need that real world experience for knowledge. I mean, you need to fail. You need to send things to print, have them come back in the wrong look with the colors all messed up, to have to then figure out, why does this that I'm holding in my hand that exists as a physical object, why doesn't this look the same as it looks on my screen?
Well, how many press checks did we go through with when we were coming out of My Friend Pedro and going into Hotline Miami and starting to use our new boxes, here with all the new, I think it was either
I don't
like
even
11.
know. I wasn't counting. I'll say this: I've never had a client. I've never worked with anyone, and this is a compliment to you. I've never worked with anyone that has turned down and pulled the plug on more press checks. Right?
Hey, I flew all the way up to Canada.
You did.
And flew to Winnipeg to reject a press check. And man, those people looked at me. You remember, like we talked about it on the you and John drove me down to Altona, and we were in there press checking. And first you were like, oh, look, nobody comes here to press check, most of the time. Like it's in the middle of nowhere. No one comes here to press check anything. So it's very weird that you're here in general. And not, you weren't saying that, but you were explaining to me why it was going to be strange for me to go into this gigantic print. That's where we printed the Ammonomicon. And at the time, I think we were printing, these were the hardcover instruction booklets that I was coming up to press check. It wasn't even the Ammonomicon. No. I came up there to press check hardcover instruction booklets for Messenger Minute and Downwell. Yeah.
Well, we rejected one of them because the and it was a valid look. It was, most people wouldn't have done that, but the bottom line was there was color. The Minute book was black and white, and we were seeing this color cast on the pages, and we didn't want that color cast. Now, look, 8 out of 10 customers aren't going to pay for the press check. Of the other 2, one of them is going to let that go.
Oh yeah, for sure. And they were astonished that I actually rejected it.
Absolutely, because they know. Yeah, they know. And honestly, it's not a mystery. Anyone that works in the print industry, if there's any like former print masters listening, those guys don't want us on the floor, because the second you walk onto a print floor, you're slowing them down.
And you can read it for yourself in this photostatic copy. I, the undersigned, shall forfeit all rights, privileges, and licenses herein and herein contained, etc., etc. Fax mentis incendium gloria culpum, etc., etc. Memo bis punitor delicatum. It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
But I mean, it's just one of those things. Like we take our art so seriously, that.
Well, I think we take the art of the developers right?
So seriously. That's what I'm saying. We take all of our art that I'm representing in this vendor at this, just like you do. You're talking about how you're honoring. Not Moose, but a guy's, passion for pinball and how you have to represent that in a film state. And so I think that's why we get along on all of our design concepts here, because you understand why I'm rejecting those press checks, because you as a art director would probably be getting frustrated with me. You'd be like, come on, dude, man, come on.
Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I also love crazy motherfuckers, man. So.
Yeah. Oh, yay. That is why we get along.
Like,
we're in the right crew.
I have a deep respect for people, regardless if are willing to flip the bird to the person standing on the other side of the line. So.
Yeah. But we've done it up in Winnipeg. I mean, that's the cool thing is, when we started working together, we'd never met each other face to face. We talked on the phone. We talked over Discord or Skype and whatever for that's our whole first project, and I hadn't even met you face to face. And then I flew up to Winnipeg by way of Minneapolis, and then you and John came out for E3, not of course this year, but last year, and we all stayed together. We had a house. My daughter flew out with me too, and we had kind of an SRG compound.
Yeah, it was a blast.
It was fun, but yeah, you were out every day with us out at the E3 lots and meeting all the different developers and, like some of the guys from Devolver that you knew, like Vieco, who does their website. There was kind of some odd, weird, like you guys went to the same high school or something like that.
Something like that. I can't remember now. I think he's a year older than me, so he would have been, or he knew about all of his buddies went to that high school or something. I can't remember, but yeah.
I think I asked him about this the other day, but anyway, it's weird how it's just this small world.
It's weird.
Yeah, just some weird small world stuff. But anyway, usually if anyone's ever interested in the process of, how these reserves ever get made, they get made slowly over time. Usually with many different conversations between Mike and I. We rarely just sit and slam out a document and say, hey, this is what we're making.
I was thinking about how long it takes earlier today, and I was thinking it probably takes 6 months.
6 months, yeah. Yeah, from the time we start talking about something
till we start talking to the developer to the time that it's in your hands, it's somewhere in that. It probably averages, maybe not averages, that's probably on the long, but I mean, Hotline Miami was easily that long.
But when we're in full production mode, when we even know what we're making and everything's pretty set, still about 3 months, from that point before we even have, something that's ready to go to print or be printed and done. So, yeah.
And that's every item. That's not even just like a piece. You guys are working through box, you're working through cover, you're working through instruction booklet, you're working through art cards, you're working through all of these different pieces, let alone assets and all these different aspects.
And you're working with intellectual property of Sony or Nintendo and a developer and Devolver, and it's immense, the amount of individual assets. I think we looked at it, didn't we, the other day? To this point, we had 160? What did we have when we were looking through our inventory?
142.
Yeah.
Something like 142 components.
Components.
Something like that to different packages going back.
Various pieces, everything from Gungeon to Minute, it could be.
And people don't necessarily realize that, right? Because even when they see, so being a collector and having this stuff on my shelf, right? Got a bunch of these things behind me in the picture that you guys are seeing. I get a box, I order a game. I've seen some of the stuff from online. I've seen what comes to me in the mail, right? And I open it up and I see the different pieces. I'm not even seeing every piece. You guys have to deal with every little piece, stuff that only the developer is seeing in your pitch, right? You have things that you've put together in a pitch that kind of say, we've had some thoughts about how this is going to work, and some of that stuff never ever sees the light of day.
Yeah. We have stuff that we've even produced.
Yeah, there's a couple things that could go to print tomorrow that are ready to go, that have never seen the light of day, that for games we've already sold that didn't get where the pitches didn't get picked up, or they weren't into it, they didn't think it tied in enough to the game or something. But like, there's some really cool stuff that we could like print tomorrow for games that people just never see.
Yeah, I just think people need to know about that, though.
Yeah. Well, but from a technical production side, though, think about all the different assets, and this isn't complaining. This is being a braggadocious dude, because you have to have skill set to not only make these assets, but we use different vendors for different processes, different assets. So you could have, let's say, the jacket cover printed by one person, but the instruction booklet cover printed by another person, and then the pages for the instruction booklet printed by another person. If we were trying to accomplish something, we don't do that necessarily, but if you did, the black background has to be the same black. on all three of those components, or they don't look good when you put them all together, you know? So just because we do have all these different components.
Remember how many Enter the Gungeon yellows we went through?
And I'll tell you, man, Dave had a custom yellow that had this tint of orange in it, right? And or something. Oh, bro, how many things did we reject that yellow? Because then we had two mediums, remember? We had the jacket cover for PS4, and then we had that yellow shipper box, and I was just losing my mind trying, because it's
not the yellow on the disc.
And the yellow on the disc, which will never match. On the disc, it'll never match.
No. Sony prints those things with a dot matrix printer or something. It's like from the 1994. And with the disc printing, I've never been really happy with. I'm sorry, the face of those discs now.
And it just shows how difficult that really is, though, because you don't have control of that aspect. No. And even the ones you do have some control over, it's a struggle. It's not easy. Yeah. You know, it's not an overnight snap your fingers process.
You don't have a PMS color match book for some of the colors that we like. That Enter the Gungeon yellow. It's not a color that exists on the color chart. There is no way. You have to actually. We made it's called the drawdown, and so we did a drawdown where they basically made a formula for the offset. The offset printers are mixing ink, you know, I mean, it's a physical ink getting mixed live, you know, on plates. And so it's really a process. So anyway, it's just a testament to you, Mike, and your old team, you know, of how much we can do together. That is so many different assets that are vast and varied. And then there is a continuity between all of them. And oh my gosh, they actually get done.
If you were to look at all 5,000 jacket covers, they're not identical. There may be small variances between jacket cover to jacket cover that you may not even be perceptible to your eye, but the ink density is going to be different on jacket cover 1 and jacket cover 3,000. Or the registration is going to be a little bit different on jacket cover 3,000 than it was on jacket cover 1.
And you're only talking about something with just ink and paper. You're not even talking about the special processes that we do on top of that, which add a whole other layer.
I don't know if we should be having this conversation, because now the guy with number 3,000 is going to come, hit eBay and say, hey, Mike said that my copy is special and it's one of a kind.
They're all special. They're all one of a kind. Yeah, they are. Every physical object is a one of a kind, because every physical object is a little bit different. It's not an exact copy. Right, and I love
just
that.
Like
I love
us.
that variance. Just like us. Just like snowflakes. Yeah.
Well, so I mean, are there any people on your team, I mean, that we talked to that you want to say, give a shout out to? Just, we can use first names. We don't have to use full addresses or anything, but anybody you want to say hi to that works on our stuff a lot?
Sure. Well, people are just getting their Hotline Miami boxes in their hands.
Mm-hmm.
I would do a big shout out to Chloe, who did all the process layering on those boxes.
Mm-hmm. Chloe, who has a quick wit, pretty funny.
I would do a shout out to Matt, who did a lot of the GIFs that we use. He does a lot of that stuff. He did a great job with Hotline Miami. I have a lot of people. Oh my god.
Beth. What about Beth?
Well, Beth's my lead designer. Beth's sort of she was perpetually employee of the month while we were in the office still. Beth is the best. So Beth is always employee of the month. And I don't think anyone's beat her yet. Working remotely, I would argue she might still be employee of the month.
Oh, yeah.
It's harder to get. It's harder to usurp her now. But Beth does a variety. Beth does most of the instruction booklets. Beth does the layouts for the instruction booklets. Beth does a lot of the research for the instruction booklets. And Beth is she has started playing video games more with her kids since working on this stuff. Her kids, they have a Switch, or they bought a PS4. They bought a used PS4, and they have a Switch too, I think, and she plays games with her. She's got two daughters. They loved Grease. They played.
Mm-hmm. But Beth draws our the Sarge illustrations that we put at the top of our website.
Yeah, Beth draws Sarge. Chloe used to do Sarge. Chloe did Sarge last year. Beth's been doing Sarge this year. All the Sarge illustrations are Beth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So shout out to that girl. And I actually got to meet Beth when I was up there.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's those three have just really been a big. They really saved my ass over the last year.
Right on. Saved all of our asses. Just to kind of wrap it up, I know we've been talking for quite a while, but it was just, an interesting.
That's it. That's all I get. I get a half hour.
Well, I mean, we don't have sponsorship for anything more than 54 minutes, and so we won't be able to pay you. And there is no craft services today, so.
You don't know what you're doing. Craft services is the most important part.
Craft services is the most important part. That and the makeup artist. But I'm going to go with the gaffer or the best boy. But it really was kind of fun to have you on and talk because we talk so much all the time that it's kind of hard to pick out one or two or three things that we could talk about on the show that's interesting for everybody. But maybe we'll do it again. Maybe we'll talk again with you and maybe other members of the team even a couple episodes down the road, and we'll just focus in deep dive on some of these projects of how we really designed them and maybe some of the processes that went in, and just have a geeky talk about paper and design. Who knows?
Yeah, man.
Everything that comes out from here into the future. Now you've heard one of the guys and some of the a mind behind some of the greatest things that we do at Special Reserve. It's actual human beings putting blood, sweat, and tears into this. So thank you for your support, and Mike, thanks for being a great part of the team.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Thank you for joining me once again for another episode of Fireflower from Paper to Pixels. Last time, we explored the earliest years of Nintendo's contributions to the arcade scene, utilizing unconventional technologies like photosensors, dual 16mm projectors, and CBS Labs' EVR film format. Nintendo's continuous innovation and their seemingly endless ability to transform difficult situations into stunning success repeats itself once again when the failing Radar Scope arcade game is transformed into Donkey Kong, introducing to the world video game's most famous mascot, Mario. As Nintendo expanded into the early arcade space by taking their light gun technology to the big time with the laser clay shooting system, the light gun fun at home did not end with the Kisenju Custom Series. In 1976, another name everybody is familiar with made its debut as the next entry in their Kisenju light gun series with Duck Hunt. With Kisenju Duck Hunt, the goal is exactly as it seems: shoot down a duck. But the implementation for the mid-70s game is quite clever. A very small projector shoots upward at a motorized mirror. The projector sits 2 feet from the wall, creating a 2-foot by 1.5-foot picture on the wall. The player then stands about 13 feet away from the wall with the assembled light shotgun. As the projector hums away, the moving mirror displays the duck across the projected surface at a decent pace. If the player can aim in the right spot and shoot the duck, the projected scene will change and the duck will fall to the ground. By all accounts, if played as intended, the game is moderately difficult and quite enjoyable. It's not too much of a stretch to say that perhaps the NES game was simply the 80s version of a remaster.
This is Odyssey, the new electronic game simulator. You attach Odyssey to your television set in seconds to create a closed-circuit electronic playground. Odyssey is tennis, roulette, football and hockey, analogic, and geography. Odyssey comes complete with 12 electronic games and educational experiences. Many more are optionally available, like a shooting gallery, a prehistoric safari. Odyssey is an electronic teacher. Odyssey is a total play and learning experience for all ages. Odyssey. It's new from Magnavox. Odyssey.
Across the Pacific in 1972, video game pioneer Ralph Baer released the very first home video game console, the Magnavox Odyssey. The Odyssey was controlled by 2 paddles that had knobs on the sides and a reset button on top. There were a total of 11 different cartridges available through various means. However, unlike modern game cartridges, there were no logic or memory chips contained within. The distinction for the first home system with that style of cartridge goes to the Fairchild Channel F. The Odyssey's cartridges acted simply as complex jumpers that activated portions of the discrete circuitry found inside the console. Nonetheless, the Odyssey was a rather amazing piece of technology for its time. But perhaps one of the most fitting pieces of Nintendo's video game lore connects them directly to the release of this first ever home game console. 3 of the cartridges could be used in conjunction with the only peripheral released for the system, the Odyssey Shooting Gallery Light Rifle. The design of the light rifle was licensed from none other than Nintendo's original Kosenju SP series, but the Nintendo connection does not end there. Although the Magnavox Odyssey was released in 1972 in the United States, Japan did not receive the console until 1974, where it was licensed and distributed by none other than Nintendo. By Christmas of 1975, however, Nolan Bushnell's Pong from Atari had taken the world by storm. With competitors seemingly coming from everywhere to claim a piece of the action, Magnavox had turned away from releasing the original multi-game Odyssey console towards releasing smaller, simpler consoles with only a few games at most. Not to be outdone, Nintendo also jumped into the market with their own spin on these limited-function home video games. At the insistence of Hiroshi Yamauchi, using lower-cost parts, Nintendo produced the Color TV game line of home consoles in 1977. Initially, the Color TV Game 6 and Color TV Game 15 were released, with 6 and 15 games each respectively. 1 year later, in 1978, Color TV Game Racing 112 was released. This new version included a steering wheel control and had top-down racing-style games included. In 1979, this was followed up by a breakout-style game system, Color TV Game Block Kazushi. Finally, in 1980, Nintendo released a small quantity of computer TV game consoles, the last in the Color TV game line. Computer TV Game was a 1-to-1 port of Nintendo's Computer Othello arcade game. The Color TV game line of home consoles proved successful with their lower-cost, colorful shells and fun games for the home market. In addition to development of arcade and home consoles in the 1970s, Nintendo also began development of handheld electronic entertainment. The story has it that Gunpei Yokoi saw a man playing with his LCD display calculator while riding one of Japan's commuter rails, inspiring him to create a small handheld system that could be used to play a game with the LCD display and buttons. The small size of something that could be tucked away in a pocket after arriving at your destination seemed convenient, and a simple game seemed like a perfect way to pass the time for a train ride to work. In 1980, the very first Game & Watch handheld system named Ball was released. Ball sold approximately 250,000 units and helped to launch a line of Game & Watch systems that lasted through 1991. In 1982, Nintendo introduced the vertical multi-screen series of Game & Watch systems, the second of which was Donkey Kong. Aside from being a handheld version of Nintendo's popular arcade game, the system features the introduction of what has now become one of the staples of video game controller elements, the cross-shaped directional pad, designed by Yokoi himself. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, Nintendo's evolution into a family entertainment company, their advancement into electronic entertainment, and the acquisition of key creative employees was about to converge into an unrivaled phenomenon. Be sure to join me in the next episode for the season finale of Fireflower from Paper to Pixels, where each of these elements culminates in the release of the Nintendo Entertainment System. We're kind of wrapped up here with, this has been an incredible episode, you guys. I know that there's some really cool stuff on the horizon here, some stuff that Smitty, I know he's dying to share. He's chomping at the bit right now, and he wants to let loose.
Pressing of Grease.
No. I know there's some stuff upcoming, man, that you would love to spill the beans on, but we can't just yet. So
that's where we don't spill the beans, everybody, and thanks for joining us. But no, I just want to encourage everybody to tune in to Devolver Direct. That is kind of essentially what has become their famous E3 video press conference. Now it's called Devolver Direct. It's going to be on Saturday, July 11th. I think it was at noon. Go to one of the Devolver channels. It's going to be on Twitch. I think they're doing it on YouTube as well, but I'll be watching on Twitch. And the 30 minutes leading up to the press conference, there's going to be a countdown. There's going to be like this white and red graphic with different text messages going across it. There are going to be some special reserve games related things in there, possibly announcement related stuff. If you want to know the release date for Carry On, for our special reserve games version, tune into that broadcast. You'll probably get a heads up. So there'll be a lot of really cool announcements made for them. But, of course, just on the out here, we did announce My Friend Pedro for PS4, and also the second pressing of Grease, which we were lovingly talking about. Both of those are going to release on specialreservegames.com on July 23rd. So it's going to be an exciting day for us to have multiple games releasing on the same day. But if you want to save on shipping and also not have to set your alarm more than once a month, just tune in to, July 23rd and grab some of these great games from us. So other than that, just have I hope you had a really safe 4th of July. If you were in America, if you're up in Canada, happy Canada Day a couple days late. And if you're anywhere else in the world, I hope you're having a great day.
Speaking of Canada Day, I want to give a massive thank you to our special guest that was on this episode, Mr. Mike Sanders. Thank you. And I think with that, it is time to say,
Game over.